Oh, didn't see you there. 1 second. Delicious. Hello. Welcome back to the Pixelists. I'm Will. I'm Weird. And today we're talking about episode 12 of The Legend of Vox Machina, the season finale. It's bittersweet because it's over, but it was so good. And I can't wait to talk about it. But before we jump into that, I just got to give you one last intro. Last one. So savor it. Savor it. So bear with me for a second. I just wanted to thank everyone for watching this video. If you've been watching this series, it means a lot. We are a small channel, less than 1,000 subs. If you want to be one of the first 1,000, press the button. All this support really means a lot. Some of these videos have been our highest viewed videos ever, and that just blows my mind. So I just wanted to thank you, and I'm sure the words thank you are about to lose all meaning for how many times I've said them, but for real, it means a lot. So we really appreciate it. And even all my just lurkers out there that are just watching, not even signed in to YouTube, much less subscribed or making comments. I appreciate you. I see you. So thank you. And quick plug, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed Legend of Vox Machina, definitely check out our other Critical Role content. We do a podcast every week discussing the latest episode. We also recap every episode. So if you've never seen a Critical Role campaign, but you liked the show enough to be on YouTube watching these types of breakdowns, definitely check out the Critical Role campaigns. You're going to love them, I promise. And like I just said, we do recaps of every episode, so you can get caught up immediately and start watching live with us and be a part of the weekly discussion, which is one of my favorite parts of like any fandom, honestly. So I would highly encourage that. Check out the Critical Role campaign. And then, if you still got time, check out our content about the Critical Role campaign. But other than that, let me just hit you with one final thank you, and let's jump into it. Alrighty, first and foremost, just the attention to detail in this show. I've spoken about it a few times, where animes talking about the characters changing costumes or battle wounds persisting past the scene they occur in. Here's another thing that they definitely didn't have to do, but did. The Ziggurat. This is the Ziggurat from episode 11, and I'm going to show a clip here from episode 11 of part of it getting destroyed. And then we're going to see it here in episode 12, where the damage and the destruction persisted in the world as it would. It's just, I don't know if I'm being way too like congratulatory here, but as somebody who watched a bunch of anime growing up, I noticed these persistent details, and it's just so nice. This is the fruits of this Kickstarter campaign being so absurdly funded. They were passionate about this, and it shows. Okay, picking up where we left off in episode 11's breakdown, we have Keyleth here on the verge of death and the party freaking out. Pike has just dissipated and is nowhere to be found, so the next thing they decide to try is a potion. And just like the campaign, other than the fact that it was Vex who was mortally wounded, they've come to find that this might not work.
All right.
Well,
You take...
44 plus 4.
Yeah, you pop off the vial, you go and pop it into her mouth, take the vial away. Doesn't appear to be any effect.
With no talk of
get
death
out of the
saves
Get
at
out of
all?
the room! Get her out of the room! Get out of the room!
Get her out of the room! Make a death saving throw.
No magic
Get
works.
me out of
no
here!
magic works.
Okay, next up we have Grog picking up Silas Briarwood's sword in the campaign known as Craven Edge. And slight spoilers moving forward here. This moment I think they will put in season 2 of like Grog's first real interaction with the sword. Obviously he just picks it up here. But the clip I'm going to share from the original campaign is when he kind of has his first interaction with it. So if you don't want that to be spoiled, kind of skip ahead past the next campaign segment. But anyways, so what happened in the campaign is Grog does loot the sword, but he actually gives it to Percy first because Percy is interested in it. So Percy later kind of spends some times with it and finds out that this sword is like not good. It's bad news, actually. So instead of warning Grog, he just gives it to him. And then you're about to see the clip of what happens. So in the show, I'm not sure if they're going to have the whole Percy middleman thing. It may be just Grog has the sword always and never gives it to Percy. But we'll see.
You know, this is actually pretty badass if I did give it to Grog. I'm going to, yeah, I'll trade.
Oh, Jesus Christ, and he's not even gonna say anything about it. You're a terrible person. You're a terrible person. Not Matt, you are. He gave you the device and you used it.
You've been playing D&D for years. You know what this means.
I'm gonna let you know we should keep an eye on him just in case.
Grog,
Yes.
as you take up the blade in your hands, you hear coming out
Here we
of
go
the
again.
coming out of the ether, a gentle, low, velvet voice caresses the inside of your head, saying, "You are you to be my wielder.
What the shit?
Speak your name, warrior."
Grog.
Warrior Grog, have you taken up the blade of Craven Edge?
Is that what this is? Do you have a female setting?
You hear a long, drawn-out sigh.
Amazing.
Do you accept my power?
There's a power that comes with you? What kind of power?
Do you enjoy drinking the strength of your foes, watching them beaten before you, and have that very power become your own?
Sounds pretty good.
You wish the shadows to encase your form and grant you resilience and anger, forcing those to kneel before you in fear.
The shadow?
Do you accept Grog?
Fuck yeah.
Then it is done. Together, we will accomplish great things.
Do you have a name? Like, do I call upon you? Can I call you Bacon?
You call me Bacon, and this blade will cut the very hand you hold. My name is Craven Edge. It will do you well to remember that.
Right, yep, was totally kidding about the bacon. Craven
Good.
Edge. Well, I'm excited about this partnership. Clearly, we will be a force to be reckoned with. By the way, can other people hear you?
Silence.
Shit.
He will kill me first.
It is an amazing sword, to be fair.
I haven't even read it yet.
You haven't read it yet? You are prepared.
I can't read.
I want to read it so bad.
No, don't let anybody read.
All right, so the group gets Keyleth far enough away from the spinning mystery orb of doom, and Vax recalls the way Keyleth made a potion for Cassandra earlier in the show and tries to replicate that. But since he doesn't have any magic, he calls in Scanlan to imbue it with magic. And the interesting change here is that, one, this isn't how it happened in the original campaign. In the original campaign, Vex just succeeded on her death saving throws enough to like stabilize and be okay. And then I think she eventually gets healed by Pike when Pike returns. But Scanlan here wouldn't need to do what they're doing with the herb and stuff, but I understand why. It's kind of, building on that moment from earlier in the show. But Scanlan, as a bard in D&D, should and would have access to healing spells himself. He would just be able to cast, Healing Word. But clearly in the show, I think they're probably trying to differentiate between the members of the party. So it seems like maybe Scanlan does not have the ability to heal in this show. And I mean, I say seems like, clearly that's the case. But I thought this was cool. It's building on the earlier moment that Vax witnessed Keyleth do this, and he kind of uses the oomph from Scanlan to set it over the edge. So I liked this change. Okay, so now we have Percy going full on Shadow Demon, and we have Vex kind of be the first one to step in and try to reach him, which, this is kind of building on their relationship, and it's actually taking from a couple moments right from the campaign. The line she says here, which is like, "Darling, take off the mask," that is straight lifted from the campaign. However, it was not this moment, but it obviously slots in here perfectly. During this moment of the campaign, she actually refers to him by his full name to try to get through to him, which I thought was very powerful. So even though it doesn't happen here, since this moment is kind of what's being transcribed, I'm going to show you that as well.
I look up at Percy, who's covered in smoke, and I grab his hand, and I say, Percival, how are you?
His head slowly turns towards you, the mask still on. You can see his eyes just barely through the glistening circular glass slots where he looks through. The smoke still kind of billowing out from underneath it. The head slowly turns towards you.
Fine.
Darling, take the mask off.
And the smoke is now billowing up stronger to the point where you can barely see Percy's torso. You can see his head now. And as what little bit of a view you have, his eyes have gone completely dark. There is just pitch black, completely encasing the entirety of his visible eye. You can see his feet still dangling beneath the smoke, and his feet are digging in tense into the ground.
Delilah, don't make me hurt you.
I reach over and I grab Vex's hand, and I just look at her and I say, oh, what do we do? Do we do
Grog,
something?
be ready to restrain me.
I'm ready.
Percival Frederickstein, von Musel Kowalski de Rollo III. You will fight this monster inside of you.
So Percy is in turmoil. You know, he's wrestling with this, and one of the only outs he sees is to point the gun to his own head and threaten taking away his own life. And this is something Taliesin did in the campaign as well. He kind of moved the gun between Delilah and himself while he was having this internal battle with Orthax. And I just think this is a nice completion of the foreshadowing earlier in the show where, you know, his shadow was pointing the gun to his own head.
Pull the trigger.
I take out my hammer.
Put it back. Put it to her. Put it back. Maybe I will.
You're placing the gun against your own head.
And back to hers.
Cassandra screams
Percival,
out,
don't.
Percy, no!
So as this encounter continues, you know, the smoke continues to pour out of him, and eventually it leads into the full-blown encounter with Orthax. Now, this did happen in a campaign, but it was a bit different, and it's really not worthwhile going over all the niche differences here. But I will include at least the clip of Orthax like coming out and revealing himself, because it was cool. And this is as good a time as any to talk about just how amazing this animation was, how cool Orthax was, and just again, like, you know, this Kickstarter money, we really get to see it flourish, because I was blown away by this. And Matt's voice of Orthax, if you've noticed from these clips, he goes a different route than in the campaign, but I love it. At first I didn't even recognize it, and I was like, is that Matt? And so the man's got talent, you know, he can disappear into these voices. Just the whole sequence was incredible.
Behind him.
I'm aiming at the smoke. I'm just watching and waiting.
At this point, you can see this this smoke that's kind of was once billowing from Percy is now standing in this outer human-like shape.
Unbeam say, unbeam say.
Cashed out and say.
As it kind of stands there for a moment,
Say, okay, cash.
it begins to swell and grow larger, filling almost to the height of the 10-foot tunnel you guys are standing in, looming over Percy's body, still connected through his shadow and through the floor of the tunnel itself. It just kind of looms over, and as it peeks forward, you guys for the first time hear the voice that's been poking through him this entire time just say,
Percival, do it.
I shoot a holy arrow at it.
then let's roll some initiative.
All right, so next we get the whole like psychedelic Percy Orthax encounter, which I thought was a really creative and cool way to handle this. But the only thing I want to say here is allow me to toot my own horn, because you know I make a lot of reaches in these videos, but this one actually panned out. I don't remember what episode it was, but earlier in the season when this original scene happened with Anders and, you know, them studying, Percy gets that stain on his shirt, and I was like, you know what, this could be representative of the darkness inside him, you know, like Orthax. And then boom, we actually get confirmation that that is literally exactly what it was. So, listen, I got to take my W's where I can get them, okay? Did you guys even see how I reached on the Matt NPC in episode 10? Let's not talk about it. And this encounter ends with Orthax when Percy decides to shoot his own hand, blasting a hole through it. This did not happen in the campaign, but I love it. I think it's a cool way to end the encounter, and I think it draws some really nice parallels with the character Anna Ripley, who, if you recall, is missing a hand also due to guns. So I might get into more of their parallels in later seasons of the show. I don't want to get too spoiler or anything, but love this change for the campaign, especially because of the parallels it draws with Anna Ripley. Let's just leave it at that. All right, this next part was one of my favorite parts of the whole episode. We have Scanlan take Percy's gun and toss it into the acid, and this is lifted straight from the campaign. And there's not much more to set this up other than just to show you this. Just one of Sam Riegel's many iconic moments.
I just had a thought, Percy. I cast friends on him.
Okay.
I think I know how to fix your gun if you hand it to me.
Never in my right mind would I hand my gun.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check. And you go ahead and make an insight check. But you have an advantage on it. Or no, he has advantage on the persuasion. You do not have it on the...
While they're talking, can I attempt to pull it off of his belt?
Pull it off of Percy.
Percy's.
My insight is 21.
I rolled a natural 20.
You're going to cost me so much money.
I step back, I see Scanlan kill it, and I just step back.
Okay. You look down at this gnome, and while he's normally pretty silly and jovial, in this moment, there's an honest spark of his own inspiration in his eyes.
I'm so upset that I have to do this.
Wink.
I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you.
You don't know.
Will.
He's your
Actually,
friend.
He will.
You're not mad at all.
For like another 3 minutes.
Yeah, roleplay for 3 minutes, Towson.
I hand him the broken gun.
Begrudgingly, you reach out and place it in his hand and release.
I say thank you, Percy. I think in due time you will thank me for this. And I toss it into the acid. as I say, when the spell fades, he's gonna be super pissed. Somebody protect me.
Okay.
You want to hop on my shoulders?
Yes, I go run and jump on.
As you watch it arc forward in your head, you're like, that fucking gnome. The spell fades. You hear him say that. And just as it... boom,
You're not going to get that, are you?
I reach in to try and grab it out.
Oh shit!
Percy, and I
Okay.
reach out and grab his
He
hand.
threw it. You threw it, though, right?
No, he dropped it.
he lobbed it. It wasn't
Lobbed
it wasn't a
it.
huge throw
I cost hold person at 3rd level.
on
As
Percy.
I reach up and I grab his hands as well.
That was so expensive. That was so
Make
expensive.
a wisdom saving throw with advantage.
With advantage.
Son of a fuck. Son of a fuck.
Hero's feast working against you.
You're the Lord of Castle Whitestone. You've got some money.
Wisdom
to
saving
burn.
throw?
Yes.
15. 18.
What's your DC?
My difficulty class 18.
You're like, that caused it.
Thank you.
I always
Keely.
fail rolls against Percy.
Thank
It
you,
sucks.
A few moments pass. You don't even see it beneath the surface now. You just see a little bit of some fume released from whatever slow process is
I
dissolving.
step in
your
front of
body.
him as he's unconscious and I go, Percy,
Girl, let's get out of here.
here. You'll thank us for this later, I
He's
know it.
paying for a new one.
I kiss his cheek and say, I'm so sorry.
He's paying for a new one.
We'll get you a new one, Percy.
I'm gonna have to. Oh God.
As you're watching this, there's a small, from the fume, a small plume of black smoke goes.
See?
And that cold nugget in the center of your chest
It was.
is gone.
Yeah. It feels good, doesn't it?
Doesn't it feel good?
You fucking genius!
It feels good.
That was so expensive.
Oh, come on.
Legendary. Anyway, moving on, we have Cassandra dispatching Delilah. She is the one that killed her in the campaign as well. Slightly different circumstances, but for the most part, this was all virtually the same. The interesting thing I wanted to point out here, though, is just like with Delilah's ritualistic chants this season, there is a slight little Easter egg in her dialogue here. Before she is killed, she mentions that, don't worry, like in the future, cities will run with blood, titans will rise, yada, 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 speaking of the Whispered One. And in particular, the titans will rise. Those of you that have seen Campaign 1 might have gotten a little bit of a kick out of that. And that's all I'll say. Alrighty, next up, the I walk away moment. I walk away is an iconic. How many times have I said iconic across this series? Please forgive me, but it's true. This is an iconic line from Campaign 1, especially coming from Liam, and don't take my word for it.
That's all there is to say. And then I actually walk off. Vax just walks away off the roof, out of here. I'm gone. I got the cloak and I just walk away. I walk away. I walk off. I leave the fucking house. Well, so are you, but what the fuck am I gonna do with that? Jeez, you're fucking weird. And I walk off.
Vax? Oh, he's around. He's probably just sulking.
Yeah,
I walk away.
yeah.
I sidle up next to my sister and just stand there for a moment and deadpan say, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And then I walk away. I have no clever answer to give you.
That's wonderful. I love you. And I walk away.
Okay, I'm hoping I built up some goodwill with that I Walk Away compilation that I painstakingly put together. It wasn't too bad. But I hope I built up enough goodwill that you will allow me to make this reach. I had to get at least one more mega reach in before the end of the show, right? Right. Okay, so the house behind Keyleth, the wood panels, or whatever they're called, the wood columns, kind of look like the Vox Machina symbol, the V into the M. You let me know. And next up, we have Keyleth using Teleport via Plants, a 6th level druid spell that allows you to use a tree to teleport to another tree that you are familiar with. So this was cool to see, and Keyleth basically sets it up in the show, saying that I can only do it once a day, or something to that effect. Which you can do it more than once a day. You just need additional 6th level spell slots. So maybe at her current power level, she can just do it once a day. But yeah, this is not to be confused with Tree Stride, which is another tree movement type spell. But yeah, this was just cool to see. And the one thing that we didn't get this season that I wanted to get with the Sun Tree is, it and Keyleth speaking to each other, which I think I mentioned this a few times. And I do understand why they didn't do it, because I think it kind of would have detracted from the tone of the moments that was happening in. But I'm still going to hold out hope that maybe we'll get this in season 2 or future seasons. So here we have Percy fixing his hand with some sort of contraption that has made it whole once again, which I believe to be a representation of his item Diplomacy from the campaign. Now, remember, he didn't blast a hole through his hand in the campaign, so Diplomacy was just a glove that he put on. So I think they're kind of, just making it this prosthetic, which I think is really cool. And Diplomacy, was this gauntlet that could store an electrical charge and then release it. So I'm really excited to see him wield this. And then behind Diplomacy there, we can spy his new gun, which I believe to be Retort from the campaign. Now, if you recall, he confiscated Ripley's broken gun in an earlier episode, and I believe that is what he used and repaired and turned it into this, which is exactly what he did in the campaign. And then if you didn't notice, Pike is reading Tusklove back at the keep. I love this Easter egg. The book must have made quite the impression on her when she spied it at Gilmore's. And then here we have Scanlan revealing to everyone that, he's chronicling their adventures into a song, which I think is twofold. It's kind of a nod to Tolkien and, the fact that Bilbo wrote the Lord of the Rings, and that's kind of the device for how, this story exists. I think the same thing is happening here with, maybe the Legend of Vox Machina. This show is in fact an adaptation that Scanlan created, if that makes sense. But also I think it's a nice little nod to something we know via Matt that, and I won't give away any spoilers, but we know Scanlan to have written, produced, directed, and starred in a one-man show about his life and adventures. So I feel like this could also be a nod to that. All right, next up at the big meeting, I noticed this man behind Vax and Gilmore here with curly red hair, wearing green, and I could only think of a certain NPC from Campaign 2. I got really excited just because I thought this was a nice Easter egg. Again, I didn't think this was canonical in the same way that like the bow skull from Gilmore's shop or the weasel in a few of the early episodes. I don't think that was literally Sprinkle. I too don't think this is literally that NPC, but I feel like it could be a nod to him. And I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to spoil it. But I do know that, you know, canonically it wouldn't make sense for him to be here. And also, I guess on top of that, we do see this NPC, or at least what I believed it to be this NPC, a little bit later in the scene when Vex's dragon sense is going off. And the front of his face does not look like who I think it could be. But then again, that person could easily just change their appearance. So, you know, maybe the hair and the color of his clothes always stays the same, but the details change. You know, maybe just a fun little piece of headcanon. And finally, the moment I'd been waiting for the entire season, I assumed / hoped this would be the season 1 cliffhanger, and of course it was. It's an interesting where they cut it off, which I understand why they did, but I cannot wait for season 2, episode 1. But yeah, this is the Chroma Conclave, a little grouping of dragons that just wants to come speak at the meeting, clearly. So yeah, just can't wait for season 2. I don't want to say anything else to spoil people that don't know what's in store for this, but just get hype. Get hype. Alrighty, y'all, that's going to do it for season 1 of The Legend of Vox Machina. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. I hope you enjoyed this season of breakdowns, because I sure did enjoy making them. It's been great to talk to you guys, so please drop me any comments below of things I missed or your thoughts on the video. I would love to hear them. And I will see you guys for season 2. And I'll save everyone plugging our stuff again, because I already did that in the intro. But if you want to keep in touch, you know, you can follow us on Twitter at the Pixelists. I'll link the Discord below where you can come chat about Critical Role or anything else. And yeah, that's all I got. So have a great day, week, month, life. And is it Thursday yet? Or is it Friday yet? Because the episodes came out on Friday. We'll workshop it. We'll be ready by season 2.